Video 4 on parasites and when do we do a parasite cleanse. First of all, I want to say that if you think you need a parasite cleanse, the very first thing you are going to do is reach out to your Bedrock team member and you're going to talk about it, because not everybody does. It's not the same for everyone. And we're going to work with you based on the reasons why, the exposure that you have, your lifestyle, your symptoms, whatever, to help you determine what the best mode is for you to utilize in your particular situation. Remember that there is no one size fits all approach to anything ever. And anyone who tells you that there is, immediately you can tell them to take a leap off of a short bridge, because if they think that there's a one way to approach every person, then you already know that they're not qualified and they're not credible. So the very first thing you're going to do, if this is something you've been thinking about, it's something you have questions about, is reach out to your associate on our team, ask questions, schedule a call, email me, put your comments in the thread below, whatever it takes, but let's get more information so that we know what's appropriate for you. That being said, there are a couple of theories about when to do a parasite cleanse. So first of all, you have to take into account the life cycle of the parasites. I'll get to that in a sec. Secondly, you have to take into account activity versus dormancy of the parasites. I'm coming back to that one too. And thirdly, you have to take into account symptom management. So let's start at the top, the life cycle of the parasite. So depending upon what the parasite is, whether it's a protozoa and it's microscopic or it's a worm, they have a life cycle that starts with either an egg or a cyst or a single cell, and that's going to then develop into whatever the next phase of adulthood is. And then they're going to reproduce, and then they're going to move. And so, depending upon what it is, they have cycles of dormancy. For example, let's use the flea, because it's a visual that I think most people can identify with. If you have ever had a dog or a cat, you've had to have experienced a flea at some time. And so the fleas jump on the dog and are adults. Then they lay eggs, and then those eggs are dormant. So when you treat, whether it's a topical flea treatment, it's an internal flea treatment, it's a natural flea treatment, it's a pharmaceutical flea treatment, it doesn't matter. You're going to kill the adults, but the eggs remain. So now you have to wait for the eggs to hatch and the babies to grow and become active, and then kill them. The earlier in the life cycle you kill them, the less likelihood there is that they laid eggs. But there's a follow-up treatment for the next generation, and we have to do that a couple of times to get ahead of them until there's no more dormant eggs left to hatch into adults. Hopefully that makes sense. So when we're talking about parasites, we have similar issues. There's eggs, there's cysts, there's parasites that can just go dormant. They can hide in our muscle tissue. They can cross the blood-brain barrier and hide in our brain. And so we are looking not just at their life cycle, but at their dormancy phases. So one of the things that is very actively talked about and has historically been talked about even before we understood some of what we understand now is treating for parasites during the full moon, because it's believed that there's more parasitic activity. They're moving during a full moon. When we look at lunar phases, we know that our body cycles with the sun and the moon. And so there's obviously a natural connection to the energy that is very real and very relevant and should be taken into consideration when we think about treatment for any disease or illness or injury, because it matters. And then the third thing is symptom management. One of the things we're looking at when we talk about symptom management is during the cleanse, So let's use the detox box as an example. If during the detox box you experienced severe headaches, rashes, itching skin, high levels of anxiety, diarrhea, those are indications that your body was cleaning itself out and you really needed that detox. The more mild it is, the less you react, the better the chances are that your body is already regulating those things on its own and you're just supporting it. But if you really felt terrible for the first couple of days or first 2 weeks of a detox, that's an indication that you really, really needed it. And you should probably do another one as soon as that one's over. The first time I did a detox, I broke out in hives. And that was a clear indication that my body was getting rid of things that had been in my body for a while that I wasn't getting rid of. That could have been because of methylation issues, because I have MTHFR and I'm heterozygous compound. It could have been because of circulatory problems. I have NOS3 and GST. I have difficulty detoxing. So there's different reasons why we would do that more often. And oftentimes when I'm working with somebody who does have methylation issues, I do recommend that they do 2 or 3 consecutive detox boxes until they feel really good. And then we go to every 3, 4, or 6 months, depending upon them and their lifestyle and those things. So the same is true if you were to do a parasite specific protocol with us. I always tell my clients that are doing an anti-parasitic with me that for the first 10 days to 14 days, I want them to log everything they notice, every symptom, from the color of their poop to the smell of their poop to what their skin looks like. Did they break out more? Do they have hives? Do they itch? Is there a rash? How are they sleeping? Did their anxiety go up? Those are all indicators of die-off, or they can be. They don't necessarily have to be. And so we have to take everything in context, which is why it's so important that you are constantly communicative with your team member. We're going to help you ascertain what's going on. And it's also very important that when you get uncomfortable, you don't quit, which is something we talked about in our 30-day video, because discomfort doesn't always mean something's wrong. Discomfort can mean something's very right, and we have to follow that through. And so it's very important that you talk about those things with the team member that you're working with. Okay, so next video I'm going to talk about how we treat parasites.